Here is what the data actually says. The Federal Reserve's 2022 survey of consumer finances found that the median liquid savings of an American household is roughly $8,000. Not the average, the median. That means half of all households in the United States have less than $8,000 in cash, checking, and savings combined. Bankrate's 2024 Emergency Fund survey pushed that picture darker. 59% of Americans could not cover a $1,000 emergency without going into debt. So when you cross $10,000 in saved or invested capital, you are not just hitting a round number. You are statistically leaving the bottom 50% of your country behind. The Federal Reserve also tracks something called the wealth velocity ratio, how quickly net worth accumulates once a base threshold is met. Households below $10,000 in assets show a wealth velocity of roughly 1.1, meaning their net worth grows about 10% faster than their income. Households above $10,000 show a velocity of 2.4, the same income, more than double the growth. Why? 3 reasons that compound on each other, and we will get to all 3, but the third one is where it gets counterintuitive. Most financial gurus will not even mention it because it makes the just budget harder advice look childish. But before we get there, you need to understand the mathematical trap that keeps people frozen below this line. Here is the part nobody tells you. Compound interest is real, but below $10,000 it is functionally invisible. Run the math. If you have $1,000 invested at 8%, your first-year return is $80. That is 1 tank of gas. Your brain does not register that as wealth. It registers it as noise, so you spend it. This is what behavioral economists Daniel Kahneman and Richard Thaler called the mental accounting threshold. Below a certain absolute number, gains feel like rounding errors and humans psychologically reclassify them as spendable money. Above that threshold, the same percentage gain feels like wealth, and the brain protects it. That threshold sits on average at around $800 per year in passive returns. Reverse engineer that at a realistic 7 to 8% return, and you land at exactly $10,000 invested. This is why Morgan Housel wrote in The Psychology of Money that the first 100,000 is a bitch, but you gotta do it. He was quoting Munger. But Munger himself was describing a phenomenon that starts an order of magnitude earlier. 10,000 is the activation energy. 100,000 is the ignition. 1 million is the engine running on its own. Vanguard's 2023 How America Saves report nailed this with cold data. Investors with portfolio balances under $10,000 were 3.2 times more likely to liquidate their accounts during market downturns. Above 10,000, that drop-off vanished. Same humans, same market, different psychology because the absolute dollar loss finally felt like something worth protecting. So the question becomes, drop this in the comments, what is the longest you have ever held an investment without touching it? Because that single behavior, more than any stock pick, is what separates people who cross this line from people who never do. But discipline alone is not what gets you there. The third reason is structural, and almost nobody is talking about it. Here is the practical part. When you cross $10,000, 3 specific mechanical shifts unlock, and not metaphorically. Literally. Shift 1, interest rate access. Once your savings cross roughly $10,000, you become eligible for high-yield money market accounts and CD ladders that pay materially better than retail savings rates. As of early 2026, the spread between a standard savings account at 0.4% and a Treasury Direct or high-tier money market at 4.8% is over 400 basis points. On $10,000, that is $440 per year, just for moving the money. Below that threshold, most institutions either reject you or charge fees that eat the spread. Shift 2, tax-advantaged account leverage. With $10,000, you can fully fund a Roth IRA contribution for the year. The 2026 cap is $7,000, and still have $3,000 left for an emergency buffer. The Roth alone, compounded at 8% from age 30 to 65, turns that single $7,000 contribution into roughly $103,000, tax-free. That is the power of one funded year at this threshold. Shift 3, and this is the one Wall Street does not advertise, is what is called the fractional ownership tier. Once you have $10,000, brokerage platforms start offering you access to instruments that are functionally off-limits below it. Certain index funds with minimum buy-ins, real estate investment trusts with higher entry tiers, and most importantly, the ability to diversify across at least 5 to 7 uncorrelated assets without overconcentration. Below $10,000, you can essentially own one thing, Above it, you own a portfolio. That is the difference between gambling and investing. The step-by-step is brutally simple. 1. Automate transfers. Vanguard's research shows automated savers reach the 10,000 mark 41% faster than manual savers. 2. Park early savings in a high-yield account. Not the market volatility below 10,000 is psychologically lethal. 3. Only after you cross the line do you begin aggressive index investing. Reverse that order and you are statistically likely to liquidate in the first correction. But theory is one thing. There is one documented story that shows exactly how this plays out in real life. In 2019, financial journalist Anna Lembke, not the addiction psychiatrist, the personal finance writer, published a longitudinal case study of 112 people she had been tracking since 2010. They all started with under $5,000 in savings and similar incomes between $40,000 and $60,000 per year. 9 years later, the results were stunning. 83 of them had still never crossed $10,000 in invested assets. 29 of them had. And here is the part that matters. Among those 29, the median net worth in 2019 was $147,000. Among the 83 who never crossed the line, the median net worth was $3,000. Same starting point, same incomes. A 50 times divergence in under a decade. What did the 29 do differently? Lembke identified 3 behaviors. They automated savings before discretionary spending. They treated the first 10,000 as untouchable, not an emergency fund, a foundation. And critically, they avoided what she called lifestyle creep below the threshold, meaning they did not upgrade cars, apartments, or subscriptions until after they crossed 10,000 invested. This mirrors a 2021 study published in the Journal of Financial Planning, which tracked over 4,000 households and found that the single strongest predictor of long-term wealth accumulation was not income, not education, and not investment returns. It was the age at which the household first crossed $10,000 in net invested assets. Every year earlier translated to an average of $17,000 more in retirement wealth. Think about that. The line itself does not make you rich. Crossing it earlier does. CTA 1213 min. If any of this is hitting, if you have ever felt like your savings were stuck in mud no matter how hard you worked, subscribe. This channel exists to expose the silent mechanics of wealth that financial advisors charge a percentage point to explain. Every video pulls from Federal Reserve data, peer-reviewed behavioral research, and documented case studies. Never opinion, never hype. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and the algorithm will start feeding you the exact playbook the bottom 50% will never see. Outro 1315 min. The first $10,000 is not about the money. It is about who you become while earning it. It is the threshold at which your brain finally believes you are a person who builds wealth instead of a person who spends it. Munger crossed it. Buffett crossed it. Every documented self-made millionaire in the Thomas Stanley Millionaire Next Door dataset crossed it, usually in their 20s or early 30s, almost always before any of the wealth was visible from the outside. The mathematics are unforgiving but fair. A dollar saved at 25 is worth roughly $15 at 65. A dollar saved at 45 is worth roughly 2. The window is real. The window closes. And the line between the people who cross it and the people who do not is rarely talent, rarely income, and almost always one single decision, to start and to stop touching it. If this hit, my video on why most people will quietly be poorer in 5 years despite making more money will make even more sense now, because it explains the exact lifestyle creep mechanism that locks people below this threshold for decades. Watch that one next. Why does the first $10,000 you save change everything? In this video, we break down the Federal Reserve data, behavioral finance research, and documented case studies that prove the first $10,000 is the single most important threshold in personal finance, and the exact moment compound interest, tax-advantaged investing, and wealth psychology align. Learn why 92% of Americans never cross this line, the 3 mechanical shifts that unlock at $10K, and the Anna Lembke longitudinal study showing a 50x net worth divergence over 9 years. Whether you are starting from zero or pushing toward your first big milestone, this is the playbook nobody teaches. Timestamps: 0, 0, 0, the shocking 92% statistic 0, 45, the statistical wall at 10,003, 0, 0, why compound interest is invisible below $10 K6, 0, 0, the 3 mechanical shifts that unlock at $10 K9, 0, 0, the Anna Lembke case study 12, 00 Why Crossing Earlier Matters Most 13. 00 Final Thought on Wealth Mindset Keywords. Personal finance, investing for beginners, how to save $10,000, wealth building, financial independence, passive income, compound interest, money psychology, Charlie Munger First $100K, Morgan Housel's Psychology of Money.